Supercoach 360.
Supercoach 360. Animation.
Supercoach 360 podcast.
All right. Thank you for joining us on Supercoach 360. Tim O'Connor, how you doing, buddy?
Very well, thanks, Juzzy. Thanks for having me on, mate.
No worries. So you're a valued member of the team. You've been chatting to us quite a bit over the last couple of years. You jumped on the show a couple of times last year as well. You're now part of the Supercoach 360 team through the Supercoach 360 website, www.supercoach360.com, where you've been putting together a weekly column you call Timmy O's Fear Factor.
Yeah, absolutely. It's basically looking at the scariest players in the NRL and Supercoach not to have in your team. So basically, if you don't have them, it's scary as hell to watch. You know, when you're sitting on your couch on the weekend, Turbo just scores a try, gets an assist, and you just want to just sort of put your head under the pillow. That's it's like one of those scary movies things. It's just too hard to not watch, but at the same time, you don't want to watch because if he's not in your team, it's no fun.
Yeah, fair enough. So you've got a few of those players for us today. This is taken from Volume 2 of your Fear Factor column. So why don't you start off with who's your first player there?
Yeah, okay, so first cab off the rank this week, looking at Nico Hines, who's gone from the Melbourne Storm last year, obviously over to the Sharks this year. Bit of a change for Nico. There's a few unanswered questions. He actually just played in the Indigenous All-Stars game last night. Seemed to play all right without setting the world on fire, so I can imagine enough people saw enough to keep him. Me, probably not so much. But there's big question marks with Nico last year. Obviously, he was playing in fullback. He wasn't playing full games for some of them. He came off the bench when Paps played. That's Ryan Pappenhausen. So there's a fair bit of difference between what he did last year and his scoring potential last year versus what may happen this year and his scoring potential being in the halves with Cronulla Sharks.
All right, so why's he made your Fear Factor rating? Are you worried about not owning him? Or you
I think just because of his scoring potential. We all saw last season what he did from fullback. Assuming that if he's playing in the halves, he's getting his hands on the ball a fair bit more and obviously going to get an opportunity to call the shots. So he's just one of those players. He can bang out a big 100, which is obviously the types of players that you want in your Supercoach team.
All righty. So you got any stats there on Nico from last year or what to expect in the halves from him this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So across last season, he played in 22 games for the Storm. That was at an average of 78 Supercoach points per game, okay, across his 22 games. Now, like I said before, keep in mind some of those games he came off the bench, some of those he played 80 minutes for. So in 80-minute games across the season, scored at an average of 1.2. Oh, sorry, try again. Across the season, he scored at an average of 1.2 points per minute. That's in 80-minute games as well as games that he came off the bench. So that's just straight across the season. He scored 5 big tons throughout the year, some of which he actually plays against in the first 3 rounds of this season.
Okay, cool. So he's got the potential for high scores there. How's his Supercoach going to be affected with the club change? Now he's running behind a different forward pack. There's a new coach there. Feels like there's a lot of uncertainty at the Sharks. I mean, that means possible potential for big Supercoach scores and big money made, but also the fear of the unknown. Do you think he's going to go better this year, or are you going to get on him straight away?
No, for me personally, he's not in my round 1 team. But as I said, he can score a big ton. He got 5 of them last season. Keep in mind, he played 22 games, so that's a pretty good scoring average across the season of football. So to go into some of the stats and what I've looked at for this season, in round 1, Nico plays against the Raiders. He played them twice last year. He scored 138 points in 80 minutes and then scored 72 points in 70 minutes. So the fact that he banged out 138 points in an 80-minute game against the Raiders last year sounds pretty good for a round 1, having a good crack at a decent score.
All righty, cool. So what's your Fear Factor rating for Nico?
Nico got him as a 3 out of 5 at this point, mostly because of the uncertainty. You just don't know how often he's going to have those big games. He's certainly got it in him. but running all the way from fullback and trying to carve through defence is a little bit different to being much closer to the line of defence and playing from the halves. I will mention also in round 2 he plays against Para. Last season only played them once, 39 points in 32 minutes. So again, a pretty healthy PPM, but obviously didn't play too many minutes. Round 3, he's got the Dragons, smashed out a massive 182 points in 69 minutes. So again, not a full game. That equated to 2.64 points per minute.
Which is just astronomical.
Absolutely. There's not too many players that score any games unless they're only playing 10 or 15 minutes, of course. But there's not too many players in the NRL that can score at 2.64 with close to a full game of footy.
Yeah, brilliant. Here's hoping. All right, who's next on your list?
Yeah, so next I'm actually looking at Harry Grant. Now, Harry Grant, strangely enough, is another player who still a bit of uncertainty about position. Last year played some full games. Last year played some games off the bench. Some games started. Again, has the issue with Melbourne Storm with Brandon Smith still being there. So you still don't exactly know what role each of those two players are going to play. Everyone certainly hopes that Harry Grant's going to turn into an 80-minute hooker. And with departure from Melbourne Storm of some of their forwards, so like Dale Finucane, who used to start at 13, the general consensus is that Brandon Smith will actually start from 13 in the lock position, which everyone seems to hope is going to give Harry a bit more of a crack at an 80 minutes performance in the hooking role.
All right, yeah, that's it. Look, I mean, I think if he's even 60 minutes or more guaranteed, he's a definite must-have. He's just such a wizard out of dummy half. What he can create, his ability to just read the play, find a hole, and he's strong. You know, it's not like he's just good at reading the game. He's also very strong, and he just tries his heart out. Not afraid to take the line on. He's not afraid to try and push through a gap. Otherwise, he provides very good service to, you know, the game managers that are making those decisions about how to actually attack that line. So I like him. He translates to Supercoach very well. You know, we've seen some massive scores come out of him, as you said, in not even full games last year. So I'm definitely very keen to see him. Are you going to start with him round 1?
Yeah, for me, he's not a round 1 start. That's just me personally, the way that I put my team together. The main reason with Harry Grant being he's actually suspended for round 1. Now, it is a bit of a shame because in round 1, the Storm actually play against the Tigers. Now, he played them once last year and scored 59 points in 45 minutes. So across the season, he actually averaged 1.31 points per minute for his games throughout the season. So you can imagine if he was going to manage an 80-minute performance against the Tigers, if he could knock out 1.31 points per minute and get an 80-minute game, who knows what he could score after getting 59 and 45 against him in round 15 last year.
105, 110, if you can keep that up.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But like I said, he's suspended for round 1. In round 2, he plays against the Bunnies, scored well at PPM with 59 points in 58 minutes. And that was in round 9 last year, so at 1.02 points per minute. But across his career average, he actually scores at 68 with a 68 average against the Bunnies. So not just last season, seasons before as well. So across his career, 68-point average, scoring average against the Bunnies with Supercoach points. In round 3, Harry the Wizard has also got Parramatta Eels with a 62 average across all 3 games that he has played against Para. Last season managed to get 40 in 77 minutes. So one of his down games, but I think that's a bit of an anomaly.
All right. Yeah, look, I mean, he's definitely the form hooker of the competition for me. You don't think worth saving a trade and just copying round 1 week, playing, you know, your alternative hooker, someone like Randall or something, just for that first week?
Yeah, that's sort of my backup plan. A lot of it's going to depend on Cleary. I currently have Nathan Cleary in my team. I won't talk too much about Cleary because I've actually got him in our one of our other editions. And if people want to know more about my thoughts on Nathan Cleary with fear factor points, by all means, go and read my article. But yeah, there's a lot of money I've got tied up with Nathan Cleary. If he's not going to start round 1, then I will probably dump Cleary, put some money somewhere else. And I think I'm more likely then to start Harry Grant missing round 1. But again, that's a little bit up in the air. Let's wait and see what happens.
All right, fair enough. And what's the fear factor rating on the Wizard?
Yep, so with Harry, I've got him at a 4 out of 5. The main reason being that he just does not play that round one. If he was playing round one, he would be a 5 out of 5 for me.
Alrighty, beautiful. Finally,
yeah, mate. My last one, big David Fifita. Fifi. Everybody loves him. Everyone knows exactly what he can do. If you watched the All-Stars game last night, there was just one moment of brilliance where he ran over 3 blokes down the sideline. Strangely enough, was playing out in the centre for that particular play last night, and it was obviously something that they practiced because it came up trumps and they scored their first try from it. So David Fifita, round one, plays against Para. Last season in 2021, scored 68 in 58 minutes at a PPM of 1.17. That was in round 18 of last year. So round one this year, plays for Para. He's got a pretty good history with them. In round two, plays against the Warriors. Last year, got a 60 in 71, and then a monster 91 points in 57 minutes at 1.6, which is just huge. So it gives you a little bit more of an idea of some of his potential that he can knock out against some decent teams. Warriors seem to have a pretty good draw, but the Titans, I think, will just be too strong for them with David Fifita if he's playing in round two. Round three, they play against the Warriors. Last season scored 88 in 80 minutes and then got an 82 in 49 minutes with a PPM of 1.67. So big Fifi has just got some monster games in him. Scored some pretty big tons last year, and I absolutely think he's going to continue to do the same this year.
you're not worried about Holbrook and funny buggers with him or playing him off the bench again. His PPM's happy. You're happy with that, even if you're being played off the bench?
I think he's going to get more minutes this year. I think there's enough evidence now that shows if Titans want to win more football games, and let's be honest, that's what they need to do to play finals footy, stay in finals contention. They're paying the bloke $1 million plus a year, so he's just an attacking weapon. And you can put him anywhere on the park. He runs over little blokes. He runs over big blokes. We all know that it doesn't really matter how many minutes he gets. I can't see him getting any less than 65 minutes. At 65 minutes, he's next to a must-have. So
he's a solid 80 every week. If he's busting out a 1.6 PPM, well, I mean, it was about 1.6 in his high games, a 0.8 in his low, but that's still going to average somewhere around 1.2, 1.3 PPM, which is just an incredible PPM, especially for a dude that could potentially be playing 60, 70 minutes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like I said, if he's at a 65 average and is banging out at 1.3, 1.4 PPM, you're close to a ton very quickly. And if he can manage an 80-minute game, then it's just a no-brainer for me. But we even saw in some games last year, like he scored hat-tricks last season. And that's just crazy. For a forward to score a hat-trick in a game of rugby league is just sensational. So my pick for this season, he's going to be the next bloke to notch up to 200 points in a game, that's for sure.
Wow, bold prediction. Love it. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what's the fear factor for DFE then?
Yeah, mate, Dave Fifita, absolutely 5 out of 5.
And finally then, is he in your starting side?
He currently is, yes.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's it. I'm going to ask the question of the boys tonight because I need to know where's DFE, because it's someone who haven't heard them talk about too much. I think we know what he's capable of, and we know he's a tackle breaking menace. But I'm curious about whether I start with him or whether there's perhaps going to be a slight dip in price. Although judging by what I saw on the weekend, yeah, there's a good chance he's making it into my starting side now too.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. You saw last night, like they moved him out to centre for one play where he just then ran absolutely right. And it wasn't, he didn't look like he was a front rower or a second rower. He just looked like a quick winger out on the sideline and just bust straight over the top of other blokes. That's what he does. We all saw it plenty of times last year. Like we said, if we can get the minutes, he's absolutely a must-have.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Tim. If you like Tim's work, make sure you find him on social media and say g'day. Head over to www.supercoach360.com to check out his fantastic Fear Factor columns. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much, Juzzy. We'll hopefully talk to you next week.
Good night.
Makes you cook.
Supercoach 360 podcast.